Good morning, good evening, good afternoon, LinkedIn, Instagram, wherever you're watching. Thank you so much for joining today. As you guys know, on the first Friday of every month, I bring on an incredible guest. Sometimes I bring in a few guests in a month. But this March 4th, this Friday, is really a special day for me because I have a dear friend, mentor, boss, rock star, like Aaron Walton is so many things to me, my family, and really to this world and what he's done in terms of advertising and marketing and what he stands for. And there really is no more important time for your voice, Aaron, than today in many ways, right? So today we're going to talk about marketing and agency and culture and what does that really mean? And we were just saying, yes, there is a weight on all of us right now. It feels heavy. And so it's really important now more than ever, right, that the work continues and that we really embrace the different cultures. And so, Aaron, take a second
Hi.
to not go through the whole career, but give me a
Yeah.
few minutes of you worked at Pepsi, founding WI, just a little bit of that journey for you. And really, what is Walton Isaacson? Why did you create this? Why are you
Yeah.
so passionate about the work you guys do today?
Well, first of all, thank you for including me. I'm so excited to be here with one of my favorite people in the world. And I'm just going to brag about you for a second because I have watched you just blossom into this. You started with us as an intern years ago, and
I know.
it's so joyful to see what you have developed and what you're doing. So thank you for that.
Thank you.
Um, yeah, my career, it was a non-traditional journey. Right after college, I graduated from Babson College and I went to work. I was lucky. I was really fortunate because I had an incredible mentor named Roger Enrico, and many people who are probably watching this will remember Roger was a pioneer in the soft drink industry. And it was at a time, this is back 1983, when Pepsi and Coke, and they're still kind of going at it back and forth, but we had this period of time called the Cola Wars, and it was so exciting to be a part of that organization because they really understood the power of pop culture, and they understood the power that um, celebrating culture and what that could do to help support a brand. And so I was kind of in the right spot at the right time. I actually started my career in the research department as an analyst, and I loved it because it was really about digging into the data and kind of understanding what motivated people to buy a product. And then they moved me on to some of the other brands that they had, Mountain Dew and Pepsi, and ultimately my role became one where I was looking for opportunities to tap into the zeitgeist of what was going on in the world and what was going on in pop culture. So, and a lot of that had to do with, how can we attach ourselves to these great music artists who are doing some really innovative things. It's kind of, I tell people one of the things that I was most proud of at Pepsi was talking to Pepsi about this new channel that's coming up that you should really be paying attention to, and we need to be kind of a part of. And they're like, "What is it?" I was like, "It's this thing called MTV." I'm like, "Huh?"
Oh my gosh.
And so it was great, but they were on the pulse of what was happening, and music artists and celebrities were really kind of driving
Can
that
everyone
that
just take
that
a beat for a
conversation.
second? Aaron was there when MTV was like
Okay.
where you launch things. Like just to think about where we've come from, MTV to TikTok, right?
The journey has been great. I think one of the greatest things one of my proudest moments was being at the first MTV Awards where Madonna was doing like Virgin in the wedding dress. And I was like, oh my God, this is amazing, right?
I can't
So
believe
yeah,
you were
so
there for that.
I was there, boo. I've got
Of course you
uh,
were.
I, I was there. But anyway, so it was.
Wait, we have to take a second.
Yeah.
Michael Jackson. Hey, everybody. First of all, Scott and Isabel and people that are watching, thank you so much for being here. Let me know where you're in from. We love you. And I know that this audience is going to like just one quick MJ story for us, please. Hi,
Oh my goodness.
Shireen.
One quick MJ. I mean, gosh, there are so many different MJ stories. I think one of the things that I loved about working on that tour was, and I was, I was a domestic employee, but this tour ended up, going around the world. And I think about the doors that were open for me and the opportunities that I got to experience going to Japan, to Tokyo for the first, and all of these were first for me, right? So going to Tokyo for the first time and loving the culture and being able to kind of be a part of that. And it was just amazing. I will tell you something that I learned when I flew from I was based out of our New York headquarters, and Pepsi had moved me to California and Los Angeles. And I remember literally going right from the plane. I had to go to the rehearsal, and Michael was rehearsing at Universal Studios and the whole set and the whole production. And I remember going and getting into the sound stage, and he was up on the stage, and he was rehearsing a Billie Jean with his hat. And I was blown away because I was actually as excited about the band because Greg Phillinganes was the musical director. And if you know anything about, musicians, and I was a guy who was always reading the liner notes on albums. It was like, oh my God, Greg Phillinganes, he's a Quincy Jones protege. And, just getting really excited about all of those incredible musicians. Sheryl Crow was a background singer, but that was before she was, Sheryl Crow now. And so he was just surrounded with these amazing, talented artists, both on the stage. And I look at the people behind the scenes, the production people, the choreographers, all of that. I mean, they were just as important to it. And I remember watching him for almost 90 minutes, just rehearsing the light cues and the music cues from, the hat's going to be here. Nope. And he kept going over it and over and over. And I thought to myself, wow, that is really about honing your craft, getting it right, making it seem effortless, although there was a lot of effort put into it.
Not effortless at all.
But just that discipline of, being really clear about the vision, your creative vision, and not apologizing about it, right? Being very strong about, this is who I am, this is what I want to present, this is how I want to present it, and we're going to do it, and we're going to get it right until it feels right for me. So, there are just so many different things, but that's one of the things that I walked away from that experience just absolutely loving. And of course, the friends you make on the tour and around the world are, if they're real and they're honest, they stay with you. So,
hey, look, you have a friend. Hey, Roy Chigas, and look like Kathy streaming. Kathy looks like is friends with your sister, and Spyro is here. These are people that are looking on your profile. I love it. This is what's so fun about live, right? We're able to say hi to people. As you were saying that, Aaron, I feel like that because you were able to be around people like Michael Jackson and Pepsi, it really sort of showed you also where the gap is in the market, right? And so you created Walton Isaacson. Talk a little bit about,
Yeah.
Or was there? It wasn't WI.
Yeah.
It was yes.
So before we started this organization, right after working at Pepsi, I started to look at other opportunities that I wanted to do, and I really thought about how do I take my understanding of brand marketing and my passion for entertainment and that form of storytelling and kind of marry them together in a way that supports both, right? It supports the artist's vision and the artist's opportunity to get a broader audience, and the brand's opportunity to tap into what was going on in the moment, what was happening right now. And so I started a company called AWE, and it was primarily focused on celebrity and connecting brands together with celebrities. And so some of the brands some of the celebrities I got to work with, Marlon Brando and just, some of the most amazing people in the world. And what I realized was, okay, that was only one part of what I wanted to do. And that was great and that was fun, but I really missed the opportunity to create those stories, to actually produce the work, produce the content. And so I ended up selling that company and then starting this new company. And well, it's not so new. We're going into our 18th year, although it feels new because we're constantly reinventing and doing
18
different things.
years.
Isn't that crazy? It just went by like
Amazing.
that. It just went by so fast. And when we started this company, it really provided an opportunity not only to do the things that I was doing at AWA, but then I got to really get into the work and to create some of the work. And I got to tap into parts of what I was doing at Pepsi, which I started my career, as I mentioned, as an analyst. And so I love the research. I love the strategy. I love really getting into the zeitgeist of what was motivating consumers to do a certain thing. So we did that and built that up, and we have been fortunate that we've got some really amazing clients. But I think what made the difference for this company was the desire and the foundation of celebrating culture and understanding the power that culture has to actually move things forward in such a positive way and to expand the conversation, to expand the opportunity for brands that were so narrowly focused on one very specific group of consumers. And we were very clear about wanting to create an environment at the agency that reflected the world the way we want the world to see us, right? And so we were very purposeful in making sure that we brought in people with diverse backgrounds. And diversity for us, by the way, was not just about ethnicity, right? It was about gender. It was about sexual orientation. It was about age. I mean, there were just a lot of different things that were really important that require work, that require an effort to go out and be purposeful in how you recruit and where you recruit and the opportunities that are out there that often get overlooked. And so it was foundational to what we were doing, but we also knew that it had a really strong business implication. We knew that if we brought in people with diverse backgrounds, if we brought in people that didn't sound like us, that looked different, we were going to learn something new. We were going to be able to take that knowledge and share it with clients and expose them to different ways of thinking and looking at the world. And if you kind of look at a lot of the science, if you look at the data, it supports that. It shows that people or organizations that have more gender diverse staff are more likely to outperform those companies that don't. People that have more ethnically diverse staff outperform those who don't. And part of the reason is that your experience as a white Jewish woman and my experience as a gay Black man are very different, right? That we've grown up differently, we've experienced the world differently, and if we respect each other, and if in fact we, go into this with an understanding that I'm going to try to convince you that my point of view is the right way, and I'm going to do it in a respectful way, and you do the same, what's going to happen is the IQ of the people that are part of that organization, of part of that conversation, gets stronger. We learn more. We start to expose ourselves to ways of thinking that might not have been there had we just been surrounded by people that sounded and looked and acted the same way. So there was there was a really strong business rationale for doing it. It wasn't just about making ourselves feel better. It was about how we could help grow our clients' businesses better. That's a long
Yeah.
answer to a very quick question that you asked. I'm sorry, but I
I
get
mean,
passionate about that.
yeah, I mean, you've been in this, I feel like in many ways, right? It was like, this is what's happening. We've talked about this. Brands are like, oh, we need to do DE&I.
Yeah,
Now
yeah.
it's time, guys, like in the last few years, this
Here's the deal.
diversity, and it was just D&I, right? Diversity and inclusion. And then we brought the diversity, equity, and inclusion into it.
Yeah,
And people are like, oh shit, we need to hire now our chief cultural officer, our chief
yeah.
diversity and inclusion. Like now, this is happening in the last 5 years. And
Here-
Aaron, you're like, we've been doing this for
since
18
the
years,
beginning. Yeah.
since the
Here's what I
beginning.
would say.
Yeah.
You can't do DE&I. You have to live DE&I. So you can't
Quote,
just
can
check the
everyone
box.
just quote that quote? You
You
can't
can't just,
do DE&I. You have
you have
to
to live
live
it.
it.
Yeah, you can't just check the box, because if you're just checking the box, if you're just bringing in, diverse people without giving them the equity, then all you're doing is casting.
Mm,
Equity means giving people a voice, giving them the budgets, giving them a seat at the table that allows them to celebrate who they are, to help you kind of grow your business and do it in a way and create an environment where it is a speak up environment where you are rewarded for being who you are and bringing that to the table. So for me, um, it's always been a part. It's been foundational to who we were, and it doesn't seem odd. It seems strange now to me that so many organizations that for years have convinced clients that it doesn't matter. It's, we're going to get them in this total market,
yeah.
effort, which was all BS. Quite frankly, it was about efficiency. It wasn't about relevancy, and those clients that understood that they needed to go beyond just kind of an efficient play, but really needed to get into relevancy, uh, are the ones that are winning. There's an incredible group organization called AIM, and they have a SIM score. And basically, what they're helping clients to understand is that when you're doing more relevant work, uh, and that goes beyond just, doing things in Spanish language. It's really about leaning into the culture of the community. When you're doing that work, it has a stronger connection with the very audience that you're trying to reach. Total Market didn't do that. What Total Market did was it marginalized so many of these groups that for years have been standing up and saying, wait a minute, there's nothing, you know, ambiguous about my culture. Can
Yeah.
you imagine someone's I was reading one time a casting note, and we're looking for culturally ambiguous casting, and I was like, "Oh, what is that?" Culturally, there is nothing ambiguous about my Blackness. There is nothing ambiguous about my gayness. This is who I am, folks, and, like, let's own it and let's celebrate it.
What does
It's very
that
odd.
mean?
It's an easy way for
Well,
someone to say, "We
no.
don't
Okay,
wanna make a
Aaron.
commitment." Yeah.
So, like, here's a question. People, because of the incredible Me Too movement and all of the movements that are going to really people standing up, it's also brought, I think, a lot of fear in people on what to say, especially for white males, right?
Yeah.
How do I refer to people? What do I say? What do I do? Like, what's the playbook here as to not get in trouble, to offend? Now it's like a woman comes into your office, you better keep that door open, right? Like,
Yeah.
if you're a man, like all of these things in a good, but also a way that to me, when somebody says culturally ambiguous, they're trying to protect themselves. They don't want to say the
Yeah.
wrong thing.
They
They're
don't say the
looking for
wrong.
a transgender person, but they don't want to say it.
Yeah, and listen, we have to
You
be
know what I
careful,
mean?
right? Yeah, you have to be very careful.
Yeah.
Here's what I would say. First of all, if I step back, I would say that our obligation as leaders is to create a safe environment for everyone to be who they are. not have to feel like they have to code switch, not have to feel like they can't, be their authentic self in the workplace. I would also say that it is critically important that we have the courage to collide, that we have the courage to be able to say, you know what, I don't understand, or I'm going to break the rules in the way that I've always done it because I know that there's something bigger out there. I use this analogy all the time when I'm talking to folks, and I say, think about a kaleidoscope, right? And if you think about a kaleidoscope and you think about those beautiful little individual pieces within the kaleidoscope, you can look at it and say, oh, that's gorgeous and that's beautiful. But then you twist it and you're making some of those images kind of collide with one another, and you get even a more beautiful mosaic. You get a different story. You get a canvas that looks different than what you thought it was going to be, but that doesn't mean it's bad. It just means it's expanding. You're changing your perspective. And we have to be able to be comfortable with that. And we have to be able to acknowledge that, you know what, I don't know it all. And part of my responsibility as a leader is to, have Rachel B. Lee, share her experience with me. And I have to not put my kind of how do I want to say, I can't put my kind of boundaries around that and say, well, anything that's out of that box that I'm very comfortable living in is bad. Look, change is always, we're human. We're human beings that like being comfortable. Who wants to be uncomfortable? But sometimes getting to that uncomfortable place is where the magic comes. That's where the innovation comes. That's where the opportunities to learn something new and to expand your horizon is really critical. So
Yeah. I want to
that's my
just
story. I'm sticking with it.
Oh, I mean, it's amazing. And because we have such an amazing crew on here, Aaron, I have to just recognize we have Kristen, that was from Complex Media, former WI employee. She's on the
Oh,
ThinkLA
Kristen,
board.
we love her.
Um, Love
She's
her.
amazing.
And we have Tanisha. She's watching from Atlanta. She's a TV producer. She's worked on some projects with you. Janelle brought some work for Verizon. Sean Curtis, 1111, he wrote, "Good morning from Florida." So very divine timing at that point. Troy is one of our LinkedIn beta testers from Pensacola. Oh, it's so cool. So
Hey,
cool.
gang,
Shireen
we're
is a
all over.
Toronto.
Come
We
on
got
here.
Toronto in the house. We got Dr. Roberto Ponticelli, and he had a cool comment. I want to say hello. Dr. Sarah Webb, uh, Bill Bronstein,
Dollar Bill is on the
Dollar
line?
Bill, my
Okay.
daddy, and CFO of WI. We got Newman here. Isabel, we said hello to. It's so fun, right? Jordan here.
I'm surprised
People,
Dollar Bill didn't ask if this was billable time.
is it billable time? That's funny. He's funny. And people really responding to this, Jordan here saying, Ludwig, love and appreciate this. You can't do D&I. You have to live
Oh,
D&I. Like that really, people resonating with that one. And, I don't know it all. It's my responsibility as a leader to be aware of it. Thank you, Dr. Roberto. Just beautiful. Thank you so much for those comments, and keep them coming and questions. So we're going to go another, 5-7 minutes or so. Aaron is heading back to LA from New York. I think it would, be helpful. One person mentioned earlier they were curious about Lexus and the Black Panther spot. And
mhm.
as we're talking about this culture and how your company continues to really fight the fight, because it is
Yeah,
not, it's not mainstream. And then a real example of bringing culture into a brand that is, could you talk a little bit about maybe that example,
sure.
really, and if people are listening, how do I do this?
Listen, the Black Panther project was so rewarding for so many different reasons. First of all, for Marvel to identify and celebrate one of the characters in their lineup which celebrated and honored Black excellence. And whether that was through the royalness of the family,
Fashion, the whole oh,
the
yeah.
fashion, the technology. I mean, it was incredible. Um, it was a great connection for us with Lexus because, when we think about Lexus and we think about celebrating culture, we think about, science, technology, and kind of how do you marry those two uh, brands. It made a lot of sense. I will also tell you that one of the things that I was really proud about with Marvel was not just about what you saw on the screen, it was about what was happening behind the scenes. So you had a Black director, you had a Black writer, you had a Black executive producer. So it
They walk
wasn't
the
just
talk.
they absolutely did, and I think it made a big difference, in how people saw that community, how they saw that film, and we were all rooting for it for those reasons. As it turned out for us with Lexus, it ended up being the most viewed content in the company's history. So it paid off in a really authentic, real way, um, and it worked well. And so there was uh, a lot of different activations that we did around it that kind of connected the brand. We were doing things in Fashion Week. We were doing things, we created a graphic novel that really started to talk about, how do you enter this world in an authentic way? Well, let's talk about getting to the real,
Mhm.
hardcore consumers and developing a story around it. And so it was great. It was an incredible experience. Sometimes you can never. It was like lightning in a bottle, and you capture that moment and you celebrate it and you move on and you're looking for different things. So we were really fortunate with that, and we're working with a number of brands and identifying ways in which they can tap into pop culture and use that in an authentic way that is relevant. And by the way, you have to do it authentically because consumers are smart. They're figuring it out. They're
Yeah.
they're not they're not sitting back and taking for uh, your word for it. They're doing the homework. They're doing the research. They're looking to see how these brands are treating people of culture, people of diversity within the organizations, and they're letting their voices be heard and they're calling them out. And so I think, one of the things that brands have to start to understand is, this isn't just about casting. This isn't just about, putting Black and brown faces, on the roster and not giving those Black and brown faces. And I say that in a general sense. It's women, it's people of diverse backgrounds, and not giving them the tools, the responsibility, and the authority to do the things that are important, not just for their own well-being, but also for the brands.
Yeah, I mean, 100%, and it's Bill Bronstein's asking, well, let's feature him because it's fun.
What is the
That
future
goes,
for?
what is the future for diversity spending by the Fortune 500? Because it really speaks into this, right? Like, who's putting their money where their mouth is? Who's hiring the people living the culture that you're talking about
Mhm.
and actually doing marketing that's authentic? Because that word authentic is getting really thrown around. So, I mean, what do you think? What's going to happen for the agencies, for the people, for the creators out there?
Here's what I think. I think that the brands that are going to win are going to be the brands that start to pull apart the systemic systems that were put in place that prohibited the voices of tomorrow that are today, that are happening now, from actually providing that leadership, that creativity, those opportunities that they have lived, that they love, that they are passionate about. Um, those are the brands that are going to win. Those brands that are just asking diverse agencies to serve as consultants for the you know general market agencies are going to lose because people are tired of that. People don't want to be marginalized anymore. and they're not putting up with it. And they're saying, you know what, my voice matters. I've been doing this for the last, 30 years, and I've got something to say. I have been trying to convince people for years to do it. You're finally waking up, and I'm not gonna be in a position where you're waking up and you're taking all of my knowledge and giving it to someone else and then expecting me to say, "Oh, thank you very much." No, those days are over. I'm gonna have a seat at the table, I'm gonna have a voice, and I'm gonna have the authority to do what I know which is right for the brand. And so I think you're finding the Fortune 500 companies starting to really look at that. Uh, Mark Pritchett, who is brilliant and has talked very passionately about marketing and has been very clear that if you're not doing multicultural marketing, you're not doing marketing. And that is a very, very important thing for folks to start to think about. You can't just put it off in a little side over here. This is about, leaning in and owning what these diverse cultures can bring to the table.
Well, not only that, Aaron, all of that. And I was just thinking, we talk a lot about the creator economy.
Mhm.
And for the brands that can't actually support and captivate in these moments and the people that are driving culture, they'll just do it themselves.
And that's what's
We are
happening.
doing it ourselves.
Listen, we're working.
That's what NFTs, blockchain, Web3. I mean, we're going to say, we don't care about you brands. We're going to own our audience, own our content. You can pay me for my IP. That's what's happening right now.
Yeah,
So it's
we're
like the
not waiting
brands
for
don't have really a
permission.
choice. Yeah.
Yeah, we're not waiting for permission for you to
Yeah.
allow me to tell my story. I mean, I think YouTube Black Voices is giving, diverse creators an opportunity and a platform to tell their stories, to create their content, to get out and do the things that if they don't allow them to do, they're gonna continue to do it, but they're gonna lose out by not having a part of it, so.
Yeah. Whew, Aaron, it has been an
Yeah.
honor to sit down today with you. We've had so many incredible people. I see Gary Morrissey is here as well. Thank you for that support. You really, few people said it, but you are, Gina, Aaron is a world changer. That's what she
Oh,
said. Aaron is a world changer. His concept
that's
of
so
business
sweet.
is what the whole world needs. Aaron for president.
Listen, I'm not I could never do that. It's not in my cards. There are a lot of other ways that I will
A lot of
support
ways.
communities, yeah, but
We're not tackling that one
yeah,
this
no,
year.
not yet. But thank you all for those wonderful comments. Now I'm looking at sorry, I wasn't looking at the comments on the side, but
Oh
I'm
yeah. Well,
really
all these
grateful that
people are
that helped.
commenting. Yes, doctor, we're not waiting for permission to let me, what he said here, to let me tell my story. That's the future. That's the now. Thank you. Really this interview, you could tell people are just soaking it up, soaking it in. It's Women's History Month. We just completed Black History Month. What a perfect time for us to really
Mm.
just love on each other and culture and everything that Aaron is talking about. It's truly in these connections that we're going to change the world. And we need that, Aaron. We all need to be light workers. We all need to think differently to change this world. That's at least my mission too, Aaron. And
Well,
I'm just,
I'm just gonna hold on to your coattails, boo. Let me ride with you wherever you're going. I'm there. So keep doing your thing. I
oh
love what
my,
you're doing around building brands and owning who you are and celebrating, uh, you know, what you bring to the party and not and doing it unapologetically. So that's how we're going to change the world. That's how we're going to make the differences that we need to make.
I love it. Yes, 100%. Thank you so much if you joined this LinkedIn Live. I really appreciate you. I'll be back next Friday, actually, with a really special guest. Her name is Tiffany Yu. She's been on economic forums. She is a beacon and created a company called Diversability. She's also a LinkedIn creator, part of the top 100. So we're going to have a whole different conversation, but all in this idea of really bringing diversity and really bringing different leadership and thought onto LinkedIn Live and everywhere we go. So we'll see you again next Friday. Aaron, safe travels back. Thank you all for being with us and have a beautiful start to your March, everyone. Bye now.